Good morning and a very, very warm welcome to the Mike van Newlands show. Now, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to say I've got a very special guest, and I know what you're going to say. All my guests are special, and I'm going to say again, every guest is special. But this is a special, special guest. This is a guest that I'm hoping is going to answer a lot of questions. He has a fantastic background. He's got a very exciting background. I'm going to call him a veteran activist. I hope that's not making him sound too old.
It's an activist.
It's an activist. So we're going to find out a lot more about Zackie Achmat in our show this morning. Now, a little bit of criticism I must just take on board. One of my viewers came up to me and said, Mike, that's a great show. He said, maar jy praat 'n bietjie te baie. So I've taken that advice on board, and I'm going to try and keep my talking down and give more time over to our guest this morning. But I'd like to just mention a few things. First of all, I must put in a disclaimer. Before I have some irate viewer getting back to me to say I wasn't honest when I said I wasn't involved in the DA. Now, I did admit I am involved in the DA. But what I did say was I wasn't involved in any committees. Well, I am actually on the committee. It didn't occur to me to say that at the time, but I'm on the committee for one of the constituencies, and I'm a worker. So let me just clear the air there before somebody says I haven't been honest. I'm quite happy to say I'm on the DA, and I'm quite happy to say I'm a DA supporter. Now, there's the toothpick. I know you want to find out what's happening with the toothpick. I'm going to put it aside for the show because time is of the essence. But what I do want to do is just set the scene a little bit, viewers, as to where we are in our country. And it's not in a good place. I think we're all tired of almost hearing everybody say that, but nothing seems to happen. But just to recap on where we are. Our municipalities are falling apart. We have load shedding now, we have water shedding. Our country's downgraded and we're on the grey list. In fact, for the first time ever we're on the grey list. I had to fill out a form yesterday to get a transaction done that involved overseas currency. Now, that was another issue. I needed a proof of residence, I needed my ID, I needed to send it in, I had to ask the client to wait a while. It took a day, 2 days before that was sorted out, or will be sorted out. This is where we're going. So it's another pothole on the road to trying to get our country going. I need to remind everybody, because we're going to talk about Parliament, an institution I have lost all respect for. But what popped up the other day is the fact that in our country, with this massive wastage of expenditure, 200 black children die every month. Now, I've been attacked on that figure, but I would urge you please to go to Childline, Child Care, and look up the Sunday Times of February this year. The headline read, 200 children die of starvation in South Africa. Unbelievably, the media did not pick up on that story. I was expecting SAFM, ENCA, all the big news networks to be screaming that from the news. And in fact, I was expecting the ANC to come forward with a massive denial. Nothing. It's gone quiet. It's like pit toilets. Nobody cares. Now, why is that? I'll tell you why it is. Because we have no government to speak of. Parliament is dead. Parliament is nothing more than an institution that allows money to be funneled from me and everybody else of taxpayers' money so they can then spend it on their despicable selves. And I'm going to refer just to the Sunday Times. I don't know if everybody saw this, but I can't wait for the unions to speak up on this issue. But 4 months ago, they appointed a new speaker, a new CEO, a parliament secretary. They offered him a salary of 2.2 million rand. Now, I don't know what you do for 2.2 million rand. I would dream of earning 2.2 million rand. But if that's not enough, this man, Skolani George, who's now the parliament CEO, 3 or 4 months later, backdated to 4.4 million rand. How is it, ladies and gentlemen, that we have got a gentleman in Parliament, the Secretary, CEO, whatever you wish to call him, earning 350,000 rand a month? Well, what on earth do you do to earn that kind of money? And it's taxpayers' money. You're supposed to be working for the people. It's supposed to be an honor to serve, not to get rich. But 200 children, black children, die every month. Nobody gives a damn. So, deep breath. I just despair. Are we a banana republic? Have we really gone over the edge? Just in conclusion on Parliament, because it's going to come up in our discussion. There was a meeting called the other day, and Pravin Gordon had to come and explain what happened to, I don't know how many billion now. I've lost track of billions. I used to be quite good. I could tell you how many billions were lost here, there, and everywhere. Now I've given up. I don't know if it's a million or a billion. He just didn't bother to pitch up. He said he was sick. But the previous day, he was all day in a cabinet meeting. We have every other department.
That would make you sick too.
It would make me sick. Definitely, Zach. I'm getting sick. I'm getting sick just looking at it. Denel didn't pitch. When they did pitch, they produced a balance sheet. Nobody could understand the balance sheet. Scopa has just become an absolute toothless dog. And to make matters worse, all the other departments are now falling by the wayside. I just really thought that the ethics committee was going to step up. Time doesn't allow, but they've just let off Tulis Neski. Cedric Froelich helped himself to 45,000 Rand. And if you read the book, Inside the Belly of the Beast, on page 205, you'll read about Cedric Froelich, the chair of chairs, having Gavin Watson stuff an envelope full of money in his pocket. It's right here. Nobody's fighting the book. Nobody's taken a greasy to court. Nobody's denying it. Perhaps I should say alleged. I'm not sure. Let's say alleged before I get sued. With taxpayers' money, of course, not with my money. So, Winnie Mngena, who took money from the SASA, just denied it. But that's fine. You're off the hook. Poor old Floyd Shabamba, of course, he did get caught, but I don't know if that's just because he's EFF. But then again, there is a direct link between him and the Land Rover and the VBS Bank. That has been proven. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost a depressing start to what I'm looking forward to as a person that I've admired and watched for a long, long time. In fact, I kind of knew him. He doesn't necessarily know this because I just had been in the audience when he had really jet black hair. So that goes back.
I remember myself at that time too.
And I have a feeling Archbishop Tutu was at that meeting. I was there as an observer, as I often was in those days, because I had a few contacts. So let me first do this. Let me welcome Zackie Achmat to the Cape Conscious Media platform, the mic from NEWLANDS podcast, and say very, very warm welcome. Appreciate you coming out. It's quite a way, quite a drive. But I think people want to hear what you have to say. I have just learnt, viewers, is that Zackie is standing as an independent, and he's in fact the only independent. I thought there was a queue of them. So first of all, in light of what I've just said about Parliament, my first inclination, Zackie, is to say, don't do it. Because aren't you going into a gang of thieves? Aren't you going into a nest of thieves? I would say one thing just further than that. That people are going to say, Mike, but you're DA. The DA is in Parliament. They're earning big bucks, which they are, by the way. My argument would be, like Frederick van Zyl-Slabbert all those years ago, decided to leave Parliament. He had the National Party on the one side, and he was on the other side with the Progressive Federal Party, or then I think the Best Progressive Party. And he said, just one day, I've had enough of this bullshit. I'm out of here. I am giving credibility to the National Party and their apartheid policies, and I can't be part of that. I cannot be seen to be giving them credibility and Parliament. So he walked. Alex Brain shortly followed afterwards, and that, in a sense, was a big blow to the National Party. I, in fact, was in Parliament on that day. No, it was top secret. Only a few people knew. But I had an excellent contact in Parliament, so I knew what was coming. So I sat there, and I can assure you, Zackie, the atmosphere in that Parliament, you could have cut it with a knife. P.W. Botha, his face just sunk. He was just absolutely shocked. Because he knew that it was an attack on their credibility. So Zackie, you're going into the den of thieves and liars. What and how are you, as one person, going to make a difference?
Mike of Newlands, good morning.
Good morning, Zackie.
You know I slept late this morning. And then I bumped into someone I'm suing.
Yeah. Oh.
But not really, in a coffee shop.
Oh, okay. Did I ask who you're suing, or is that on a list?
Well, he's being sued, but he's not opposing the case because it helps the city of Cape Town.
Okay.
We're suing PRASA and we're suing the Minister of Transport to have a service level plan with PRASA. But I'll come back to that in a second. I'll try and answer your question. I've been known to work with some of the best people in the country, and sometimes from abroad, to build movements. My work has been, for the last 47 years, since 1976, as a cuckster. So
lovely. I love it.
Right, but an independent candidate for parliament shouldn't use words like that. But so I've been an activist, I've been a revolutionary at times, and I still sometimes hark back to those days, especially when I look at parliament now and look at the state now and so on. But to come back to it, building movements is about bringing tens, then hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands into, with the support of millions, into politics. For me, politics is not parliament and the election of individuals. Politics is what happens outside parliament. And it happens day by day. And at the moment, there isn't real politics because the mass of people are desperate, quiet. Many have given up, don't even vote, and so on. So my campaign, which is called Zackie 24, my campaign is very simple. It is about building a movement outside Parliament, a movement where working class people, the pensioner who stands in the queue at SASSA from 5 o'clock in the morning, and then she gets told for 2,000 Rand a day, please take your bus or your taxi back home, there's no money in the kitty here. That is the pensioner who gets educated about what Scopa should be doing.
Yeah.
And my campaign started off with the first organizers, volunteers saying, let's talk about how we're going to win the election. I said, no, let's talk about something else. And I said to Sisnom Mesile, Sisnom Ngaba, Sisnom Teto, and so on, I said to them, do you know Section 195 of the Constitution? And they said, what is that? Now, do you know what Section 195?
I'm supposed to put you on the spot, Zackie. Anyway,
right. Exactly,
I don't.
Exactly.
I actually have no idea.
Not even lawyers that you'll ask about it will remember what it is. But I believe every one of your listeners should go online, because they're online now. As soon as they get off, type in Section 195 of the Constitution. Section 195 of the Constitution is about public administration. It is about Xolile George, the Secretary of Parliament. It is about the nurse who has to look after patients. It is about the teacher and how she or he should behave. He behaves very badly most of the time. So it's about public administration. And the section is entitled The Values and Principles of Public Service, of Public Administration. Now, Section 195 says that public administration must be professional, ethical, it must be open, it must provide timely and accurate information, it must use its resources economically, and so on. Mm. And it says, most importantly, that you do all of this to put the interest of people first. Now, that is what we all strive for. Everyone knows the Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which is the Bill of Rights. Even if you haven't read it, you know that your right to life is guaranteed in there, your right to safety is. So you know those things. But for me, this is the section that can give meaning to your rights.
So, Zackie, let me understand this. You feel your power base is outside Parliament?
Yes. But my responsibility is to take the voice of people into Parliament, not to take my own voice in there, because I'll get half a minute to speak in the National Assembly.
Exactly.
I'll just be able to say, you're a bunch of skellums. And then, but where does the work of Parliament really occur? Yeah. The work happens in a committee.
Sure. Get that.
Now, it doesn't matter which party MPs are from. They don't study the papers. There are a few great ones, mostly in your party. I'm not a member. I've never been a member. I don't think I'll be a member ever. But there are a few great MPs in your party who will study the papers. Yeah. But most of them won't, because who reads 600 pages put in front of you?
No, correct.
Right?
Correct.
So the voice of people knowing what's in those papers is what we need to put Parliament on spot.
But then is it not a case, though, that where the DA is, in fact, anybody who's not in power? Let's take SAA, for example, but it could be any issue that you are taking to this particular committee that sits on whatever the subject or matter might be, or department. But is that, it's having attended many committee meetings, I was quite active in the Right to Know campaign.
Right.
With a wonderful guy called Murray. Anyway, we'll get in a second. So I attend a lot of meetings with Murray and a few other guys. So it was a while back now. So I became very, actually almost word perfect in how these committees operated and what was going to be said. And I was just constantly frustrated by the fact that you could bring a perfectly good idea. I'm talking about the DA now. They would prove a point, say, here's the balance sheet. This is the way it is. We can prove to you this is the way to go. Ideologically, it didn't suit the ANC. Never mind the fact that...
Not ideologically. In order to steal. Unless stealing has become their ideology.
That is their ideology. I mean, yes, listen, I think that's in their DNA. But I actually spoke with one very... I won't say she was rude, but I said, look, because I had a T-shirt on... She didn't love me very much. In fact, we weren't very welcome there, needless to say, when the meetings were held on this particular information bill. But she did kind of acknowledge the fact that you guys can stand in your head, but we are going down this particular path, and that's the path we're going to go on.
And they lost.
Well,
the information bill did not pass.
That is true. That is absolutely true, and it was a victory. And I must say, I have to take my hat off to the Right to Know guys. They did a fantastic job. But it was damn hard work. And you can't do that for every single bill. And listen, what's it
You must. You have to. But it's not... you have to do it for every single report and policy. That is what Parliament is. It's about the Constitution guarantees a participatory democracy. It guarantees participatory governance. So my duty as an MP is to go to a constituency or to go to a professional group, to go to groups of experts and say, your voice on this is important. Now let's study it. Now I've lived under the apartheid parliament, been to jail because of it. My parents' homes were destroyed. Everything you can imagine of that time, and I'm sure you've spoken about many times on your program. I've lived under the first democratic parliament, 94 to 1999. And for me, that parliament was what parliament should be. From that time, I've learned how to write submissions, which Parliament asked us to do. Not we have to beg them, please can we make the submission, can we have an oral hearing? No. People like Dr. Eben Komo, people like Dr. Abdurrazack, at that time Danny Oliphant, all the great MPs said to us, we don't know about this, please bring an expert. Please bring an expert to brief us. Now, that is what Parliament should be. We always, when I was in the Treatment Action Campaign, the people who went to speak in Parliament were people who were directly affected. But people like Christopher Maraka, people like Busisiwe Makongo, Fahmida Miller, they didn't go there just to weep about the fact that they have HIV and they're poor and they're working class. They went there and said, this is what the drug companies are doing.
Yeah.
This is what the state is failing to do. So in that sense, our political parties and our movements outside, we are failing the people. It doesn't matter which political party you are, because, or let's say the city council, which is critical to everyone. Does Robert Quintus come to community meetings or call big meetings and say, these are the policies, what are your views? Or say, what do we need to form policies on in relation to transport? So it doesn't happen in a way where Parliament encourages the bringing of voices in. It actually shuts down voices.
Yes, it does.
It shuts down voices.
That's correct.
Because the ANC have an overwhelming majority in that party, and they want to shut down as many voices as possible. So, what am I going to do in that Parliament? Well, let me talk about the other parliaments that came after the Mandela Parliament. We then had the Mbeki Parliament with Issa Pahad, the late Issa Pahad, acting like a mafia gangster, shutting down ANC MPs who were independent.
Yes.
So quieting them down on the arms deal, on HIV, on Hitachi and the corrupt deal with Eskom, Chancellor House, all those things were shut down.
Yeah.
It continued to pass really great laws in certain areas, but where it mattered, the practice of government and the practice of governance and having Parliament as an oversight body, that stopped. Now, here's the question. You then have Zuma, which was an absolute nightmare for all of us. It had a brief 30 seconds where everyone could be free for a little bit, and then bang, his agenda came into operation. His agenda came into operation. Now, if we take a step back, I've learned how laws are written. I've learned how policies are drafted, what a green paper is and what a white paper is. So, in a sense, the movements I have worked in, and sometimes I've led, always with other people, not as a superman or super white madam, which I like to call myself, or sometimes the supreme Ayatollah. Right?
Of Long Street.
Of Long Street. Right? I've tried not to call, what we've done is we've learned from the bottom how these things are done. Now, my duty as an MP, I want to serve on SCOPA. The reason I want to serve on the Standing Committee on Public Accounts is because because that's where our money gets counted and should be counted properly. You have a triad of committees in Parliament. The first one is finance. They set the architecture of how finances should operate. Then you have the Standing Committee on Appropriations, which is now chaired by the most corrupt MP, who's suing me and Unite Behind for 5 million rand, Sifiso Buthelezi, who stole
I had no idea.
or helped steal 30 billion odd rand from PRASA. And he personally was involved in the robbery of Robben Island Museum. He spent a lot of time on Robben Island. So SCOPA, he's on the Standing Committee of Appropriations.
Good grief.
He gives money, he's the chair. He gives the money to departments and SOEs to steal.
Good grief.
Then SCOPA comes and gives you a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
And the ethics committee, we don't even talk about that committee that protects and promotes corruption. So I want to serve on SCOPA. Now, how would I serve on SCOPA? First, I would come to you as an independent MP, to anyone who wishes to, whether you're another MP or whether you're a community member, and study the documents. Even if I'm not on SCOPA, I will do that. Then we go to the hearings. I will help people make submissions to the hearings. If they don't allow that, you know me, I'm a drama queen. We'll do it right outside the door of that SCOPA.
It's very effective. We did it once.
We'll do a SCOPA right outside that door. So Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa Kakula, if you are still the Speaker, know that we will make, when I say we, anyone who participates, we will make known every corrupt MP, because your courts won't get a chance to see them. We will make every civil servant who does great work known to the country, just as we will make any public servant who is corrupt, their face known to the country.
You're going to be busy.
I'm going to be busy, but here's the question. I only want to concentrate on 4 issues. They're big already in and of themselves, but again, I won't do it alone. They're experts.
Yep.
They are most important, the people who are directly affected. Rail commuter work, PRASA. We have to fix the trains. Yesterday, we launched a court case against the Minister of Transport, the PRASA, and the City of Cape Town, because PRASA has refused to implement the law, the National Transport Act, and the Constitution, which says municipal transport must be covered by municipalities, and that any municipality has the duty to enter a service level plan with PRASA, in agreement with PRASA, in consultation with PRASA. Now, what that means is that we can say which train you can use, or rather, how many trains they must run, and so on. So, and municipalities then oversee the contracts.
And buses? Is this a...
it's integrated transport. So buses and stuff like that are already under the control of cities. The law says integrated public transport, so you have to bring rail in.
Right.
And the Constitution says rail, well, not explicitly, but that's what it means. The National Land Transport Act and every policy that the ANC introduced said that municipal governments, where they have capacity, must take over commuter rail. So the work over the last 6, almost 7 years, my work with Unite Behind has been to expose corruption at PRASA. We now have, at the Judicial Services Commission, a judge who was corrupt when she was chair of interim board of PRASA. And she had been appointed a judge, should not have been on the PRASA board. We went to court against Siangena, 4.5 billion rand worth of corrupt deals.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, so I can go on about that. But let me say that if I was in Parliament and we were doing that outside Parliament, you would have known of those things long before.
You mentioned 4 things.
Sorry, yes, I'm an old...
I'm worried about time.
I'm an alter kakker, so I go off in every direction.
That's fine.
Right?
We can always come back. I'm scared I'll miss them.
Yeah, the second thing is green energy, renewable energy.
I love it.
And that has to be to educate the country why we need it. To help educate, not to educate, to go out and with my blackboard and stand there and say, this is how you do it. But to help educate, to use the platform of Parliament for that purpose. The third thing is SASSA.
SASSA.
Specifically, income security and SASSA.
Right.
The fourth thing is mental health with a focus on addiction.
Right.
And specifically there, starting with the most dangerous drug that people take, and that is alcohol. Alcoholism. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not because I have a Muslim background that I don't like alcohol. It is because of the impact. I'm all for responsible use of drugs or of alcohol, not of
abuse.
Not of abuse, or rather, alcoholism is a disease. So those are the four issues: PRASA and commuter rail, green energy, SASA, and mental health and addiction.
I'm totally with you on the green energy. I'm curious about SASA. How is that going to work? How? Because that's a big issue. Tell me more.
In our country and in the world, artificial intelligence, robotics, and all those things are going to put even you out of work, and me.
Yeah, it is coming.
Right?
I get that.
And that means we'll have no income as workers. Our unemployment rate is going to go up. But robots can't consume water, food, etc. That's why they're very efficient at working. But the big companies will want to make profits. And that profit can only come out of selling things to us.
Correct.
Right?
We haven't got the money to
when
buy.
we don't have the money to buy.
Exactly.
So it's in their interest to provide income security. We're not there yet. Where we are right now is the 2,000 Rand a month that the pensioner gets.
Yeah.
Or the 400 Rand or whatever it is that people get for the child support grant, 380, I think.
Yeah.
Therefore, our duty is to make sure that the most vulnerable people now have some income security. Right? So SASA is important for that. We cannot... SASA changed from CPS because it was a corrupt deal to Postbank and SAPO and so on. And that was both good and it was a mistake. At that time already, the bank should have been brought in to pay over people's pensions and so on. And what SASA should then have done is in the smallest villages and so on, that's where they operate.
Their primary role is distribution, is it not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're an independent agency of the department that must distribute.
Correct.
But they're so useless at it, so corrupt, they've destroyed themselves. So literally, the distribution has to be done by ShopRite, by Checkers, by all the...
It's actually, just as a quick aside to that, it occurred to me the other day, I got talked into opening a bank account with Discovery Bank. And I was just...
I'll leave my opinion on that.
Okay. We won't. It's not on my list. But let's talk about, it doesn't matter, FNB, Capitec. The point I want to make is that the efficient system, I mean, it is remarkable. They captured my information. I get WhatsApps, I get news, I get annoying selling messages, I get all that stuff. When I buy something, it comes up on my screen. I've just spent so much. They have got it down. I mean, I can't complain.
Government should work like that.
Why does it not? I'll tell you why it doesn't, in my opinion, is that they've got some cadre deployed, a kickback system going, where some guy who's not qualified to do the work is buying the system in from somebody who doesn't care because it's not really his responsibility. So then constantly we have people going for sometimes months without any money.
Yes, I'm going to come to that, respond to that in a moment. How much time do we have left?
We have, let me see. We have another half an hour at least.
Okay, cool. So now I can take my story going up the mountain, down the mountain, and around it. I would go a little bit deeper in understanding why things like SASA, schools, and so on doesn't work. My only thing I believe that every political party should do is to say fix the state. And that means that all your MPs, you'll take 100 MPs that only looks at municipalities. Start with the worst ones, help the best ones show to the others how to operate. Now, what stands in the way of fixing the state? There's a wonderful old economist who died recently called Charles Simpkins. In the 70s, he wrote an article for the South African Labour Bulletin which said the following: we're living in a time of structural unemployment in South Africa. And there are two reasons why we have structural unemployment. One is cheap labor, and the other one is a disastrous education system that will make it impossible for capitalism to develop. He said the cheap labor market meant that people couldn't live a dignified life by having a fridge, a stove, an extra room, buy books and so on. So we have that, and we continue to have that. The education system, in many ways, certainly better in certain ways, but worse in that the times are different. So even in our schools, we have people, in fact, the majority of teachers were educated under apartheid. Different levels of isiXhosa or Sesotho is taught in different types, dialects of it are taught in our schools. There's no standard. So young people's language ability is affected already in their mother tongue. So our public service is filled with people who've come through the worst education system.
Indeed.
And that's the starting point. If you can't do your work properly and there are a few corrupt people and you see no chance of promotion, what are you going to do? No. And you see a layer of ANC cadres from Cyril Ramaphosa and others given billions of rands
with no
by traditional white-owned companies in order to have a black face.
Correct.
Right? So then you say to yourself, Here nee, ek gaan nou 'n bietjie steel.
That's right. You get your own little scam going.
Exactly. And so it's important to know this because it's important to understand how we need to fix it. The second question is exactly that cadre deployment. But I'm going to be controversial about cadre deployment. All political parties want their people or people who are sympathetic to their policy developments. ANC is different now to their policy changes. Earlier it was policy, it was about policy, it wasn't about corruption. So you want people in who are sympathetic to your policies in key positions.
Correct.
Right? But as Zondo said, he said abolish cadre deployment, but that's never going to happen. I'm telling you that's never going to happen. Even the DA does it. I can mention lots of cadres of the DA deployed in different places. You know that. But they do their work. Mostly, they do their work. They do their work. And the mayor of Cape Town recognizes the independence of their public servants. They're not going to go and interfere with your work and tell you how to do your work. They'll make sure that your work is done.
Yes.
And it's done properly. Now, you have those two things, the bad education and the bad cadre deployment. Those two things are the danger to fixing the state.
Can I just go a step further with that and also just tell you a little story, and I'll keep it brief, want ek praat 'n bietjie te veel.
Your story is amper so lank as mine.
So, I went to Germany a while back, some 9-10 years ago now, met with a very nice gentleman who was, I'm going to tell you now, black, because it's just important to our country. And sadly, that's a big issue still today, but I didn't know he was black when I went to meet him, but he wanted to invest in South Africa. We had a meeting in some very fancy restaurants in Hamburg, and Berlin, and he wanted to come to South Africa. He came out here with his wife. Well, first of all, he sent me to look at the buildings that he'd built. He went into East Berlin when the wall came down, and he made a small fortune. He created a a property development company registered in Geneva, and they took these old Eastern Bloc flats, these just square, ugly things, and he just turned them into really habitable, beautiful, modern homes. And he wanted to do the same thing in South Africa. So he came out here to have a look around. We didn't really have that kind of structure here. It was literally ground up stuff. But he went to asked him why. Why did you, because he'd already been to the country when I met him. So he knew all about South Africa. And he said, no, he said, look, my roots, this is my roots. He said, I just feel I should do something. You know, Germany's been good to me. I'm not poor. I'd like to do something. So he went to South Africa with his wife, went to Joburg, called it the Wild West, ran out of there, went to Durban, was shocked by the unions and the way they operated, and he clearly didn't feel very welcome there. So he came to the Western Cape, looked around there, and he found a piece of land, which is where I got involved in the story, which was out near Santa Cruz, subsequently been bought. So what happened was we met, and everything's going along nicely, and I won't deny this. If this deal had gone through, I probably wouldn't be sitting here because I would have made a fantastic commission. But most of all as well, it meant about 200 jobs and 100 million rand investment into our country. But then he produced this rather thick document called the Expropriation Without Compensation. And I had to explain my way through that, and it was extremely difficult because his company would not invest in South Africa. He said, Mike, there is no way we're going to invest in anything that could be expropriated. We have investors all over the world, thousands of them, and they will want to own the properties. So this you have to deal with. And then we went through all the other issues, the unions, all these hurdles I had to jump through to get this guy to build and invest in our country. But this expropriation without compensation was the problem. I then approached the late, I've got his name here somewhere, I knew I'd forget it, anyway, he was then in the presidency at the
Jeff
time.
Radebe.
No, Jack, I'll think of it in just a second, Jackson Ntembu. And I spoke with him, in fact, on the radio as well. And I even recorded the conversation. And he opened the show by saying, the sleeves are rolled up, we're ready to work. South Africa wants, invest. So I said, well, here's my problem, sir. I've got this company, 200 million rand, 100 jobs, almost guaranteed, all black. So there's no question about that. But what are we doing about this? I wrote to him after the show because he promised to look into it. I tweeted him, I phoned him, I did whatever I could think of. Not a word. I got the proverbial finger from the ANC. That was the end of that project. They threw away 100 jobs, and all came down to the fact that they were not going to change their ideology. The fact that 100 people are not going to get their jobs. Ever. Those guys now are sitting out there doing nothing today, and they'll be doing nothing for the rest of their lives. And we've lost a potential investment. That was just a small money for him. I mean, they would have gone really big in this for Santa Cruz thing. It was a huge project. So I wanted to just put that to you because, you see, I feel whatever we do, and your problem is going to be is that you're up against this ideology of the ANC. They really don't care about unemployment. It doesn't bother them. In fact, I'd go so far as to say the more unemployment,
but you're not reading the polls.
Tell me some
good news. The reason this election is going to be the most important is because we have to bring the ANC under 50%.
Yeah. Hallelujah, I agree with that.
We have to do that. And that is people have to vote, and you have to have credible candidates up. I hope people think of me as a credible candidate. Now, I want to shift you off to something you wanted to ask me about independence.
Yes.
Now, let me first make a general principle about independence. Independence is not a cure. They're not a panacea. Because you can get some very bad independents who will just go straight into the ANC pocket. Just like you can get very small parties, and we can name them.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Many that go straight into the ANC pocket. So, why are independents necessary in this time? Two reasons, I think. One is the most important, and that is for constituents, and I'm talking about progressive independence, for constituents to have power over their MP. I'm signing a contract with Zackie 2024 supporters that give people the right to discipline and to the legal right to discipline and to recall if I do something criminal. Now, it's important that people have that power over an MP. At the moment, we don't.
Correct.
The second thing is to keep the political parties on their toes. To keep the political parties on their toes. We're not going to get rid of party politics. And the Constitution says there must be multi-party democracy. And I believe it's right, because there are people who want to join political parties. So let's accept that MPs' independence are not a cure, but progressive MPs' independence can have control over, communities can have control over them, and they're going to keep political parties on their toes. Now, and if they work hard, they can achieve stuff. And if they work with other political parties to maintain the rule of law and to put the interest of the most vulnerable first, then we can work properly. Now, the law discriminates against independence. I have to get, and I ask every one of your listeners or viewers to please go to Zackie2024.com, because I have to get 15,000 hard signatures.
Forgive me for laughing, but it is outrageous.
It is crazy. Before this law was passed...
You're an independent anyway. How are you physically going to get...
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. So I have to get that to get into Parliament, unless the Constitutional Court says that's unfair. There wasn't sufficient evidence before the court, so it might not make that decision and say we leave it until after the election. The second question is that I have to get double the amount of votes. Double that a political party has to get in order to be assured of a seat. Not in order to get a seat, because I could come in just at the tail end. And on current mathematical projections, only one independent MP in the Western Cape will get in.
Is it a mathematical exercise? How many votes do you actually need?
I promise you it's a mathematical exercise. Normally you need about 47,000.
Wow.
Or it can be between sometimes 38,000 to 47,000. Yeah. That's fair, because it's a population.
Yeah.
It's a percentage based on who votes.
Okay.
So, and it's not, people make the mistake by thinking it's how many votes you get.
Yeah.
Parliament has to fill all 400 seats.
Yes.
Now, what is different in this election and what is exciting? You're going to vote for me, Mike from Newlands, because you're going to get 2 ballots for national. You get it. Before, we got 2 ballots in the national and provincial election. Yep. 1 for province and 1 for national. Now we're going to get 3 ballots. One is called the regional ballot, which is for individuals and parties, and that is a province. A region is a province. One is your one is for your parties only ballot. So people can vote either for a party on both, or they can vote for a party and an individual, or they can vote only for only for an independent. Our biggest problem is that most people don't vote.
Yeah.
So we have to bring people in. Yeah. And if people are fed up of political parties, so if they know and trust people, they will vote for them. So this is an exercise of bringing people back into politics. So the law is discriminatory. Now, do you know what my campaign is going to cost me? Between 14 million rand and 18 million rand.
As in 4 million?
14
million.
14 million and 18 million.
Just how much do veteran activists earn? What?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Good grief. And? What next?
At the moment, my median, that's more than 50% by one, my median donations is 500. Pensioners, young people who scrounge a bit of money, working people have given money. I've had one huge donation from a good capitalist, and I've put in my own money, and I've had a friend who put in money. We can run out of money by December if we don't raise more money.
Crowdfunding, has that been an issue? Is that something you're going to do?
Absolutely. So the main difficulty for independence is we have to campaign across the province instead of in a constituency, and we're competing not against 3 or 4 people. We're campaigning against every political party. And the major ones in our province is the DA, the ANC, which I hope will be the last party in the list, the EFF, Good, the Patriotic Alliance, the ACDP, and the Freedom Front Plus. Those are the major parties in our province. Our biggest danger as a political party is not the EFF.
It's not.
No.
Interesting.
It's the Patriotic Alliance. They are determined to drive a wedge in this province between African and coloured people.
I'm with you on that.
And they're a party of gangsters. We cannot afford to have them in a majority, or not in a majority, in a significant role, in a kingmaker role anywhere. Right?
Just perish the thought,
Now, our job as independents, we have to set up offices in places.
No, you know what? I'm beginning to think the only thing they forgot to put in the legislation is putting some cable ties and tying your hands behind your back and blindfolding you. And while they're at it, they might as well put a mask on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would I be able to afford radio spots?
Yeah, no,
that money excludes my radio spots.
Yeah. You know, Zackie, I don't know actually what to say. I think also, you know, I was going to bring this.
I am going to get elected. They are not going to stop me. Even if I have to take the last half cent I have to talk to people, to help educate people, I will get elected.
I sure want to say something that I think maybe I should have said right up front at the beginning of the show. For some strange reason, I thought I'd bring it in at the end, but actually, listening to you now makes me realize that a lot of people won't necessarily know much about you. I've taken the liberty, because I've followed you, I know your background, I know everything. So maybe I should just let the viewers know about you, just so you've got that credibility you're talking about, because people might be saying,
VSA.
I've heard about him,
VSA.
But what exactly? So let me just tell them quickly. Your home language is Afrikaans. Natuurlijk. And you're very proud to have an Afrikaans language, I understand.
I'm delighted.
Yet it was the language of the oppressor, but you've come to terms with it.
No, it's a language I revolted against because of 76, but it's my home language.
It's your home language, and very proudly so. I am aware of the fact you tried to burn your school down, but we won't talk about that now.
It was my greatest political lesson in the world. I burned, and instead of the students making a revolution, they all took the day off.
On a more serious note, you do 2 stints in solitary confinement?
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 stints in solitary confinement.
With
1 6 months completely in Pollsmoor prison. The first one in Woodstock police cells for 2 weeks, then 3 months in Seapoint police station, and then another 2 weeks in Goodwood police station.
I think there's another show coming up here. I've got so many questions I want to ask you. You joined the ANC. I thought you joined them in Britain, but you actually didn't. You joined them in South Africa.
No, after solitary, I was put into preventive detention in 1980, and I was 18 years old. And I was recruited to the ANC in then Victor Verster prison by the late Johnny Issel, who was the ANC underground leader and later public leader for a little bit in Cape in the Cape.
Right, I'd forgotten that.
So
So you've done all this, and now, so just so viewers you know a little bit more. I think there's, as I say, there's possibly another show coming up nearer the time, because there's so much else to discuss. But I just wanted to put that out there, so viewers just know that the gentleman that's sitting in front of me has been around the block more than a few times. He's got all the T-shirts, and was a veteran ANC campaigner and supporter. I take it you're not anymore.
My bro, and this is the thing, I'm never proud of anything, and I'm still not proud about it, but it was the necessary thing to do. I have HIV, I've lived with it since 1990. This year I'm 20 years on medicine, and we forced the government against Mbeki's denialism, which led to millions of infections, millions of people getting desperately ill, children dying, and enormous amounts of deaths. And we had to struggle against that. The medicines I take today used to cost 10,000 Rand a month. The state gets it now for 70 Rand because of the work done by women in informal settlements as part of a movement, and linked to activists in Brazil, India, Thailand, the United States, Europe, Japan, South Korea.
Which I think speaks nicely or neatly to your point as to how are you going to do this. Because you did, as I also should have mentioned earlier, are the founder or founding member of the Action Treatment Campaign, which was an impossible task. But you managed to rope in Nelson Mandela, knocked on his door, and I think...
Actually, he knocked on my door.
Oh, did he knock on your door?
He knocked on my door.
I can actually believe that. I can totally believe that. He knocked on your door and famously wore your T-shirt.
Right. What happened is I got quite sick, and I was meant to address the International AIDS Conference, and he was there. And I sent a message, a video message. And he found out that I was sick, and I got to... I was sick, and my long-term partner, who is now like my mother, Jack Lewis, he phones me up and he comes up and he says, Nelson Mandela's on the phone for you. And I'm like,
what?
No. I said, don't take that call. It's just...
That's a scam.
He said, I'm serious. So I take the call. And he says, Zackie, I'm coming to tell you to take your medicines.
That's just delightful. Is that what he said to you?
Yeah. And then I said to him, you're welcome, but I'm not going to give in.
Yeah.
And he came, and I said to him, no chance. And every TAC person who was a leader at that stage, about 30 or 40 in the city, got a chance to speak to him in 2x2s. And he sat and he listened to everyone. And I said to him, I'm not taking medicines because I'd refused to take medicines until they're available in the public. Until they became. And he said to me, why? And I said, explain to him, my mother raised me to believe that all children are equal in her house. And if I can get medicine, it will only be through friends with money who buy it for me. That's how I'd be able to afford it. My sister, my brother, they won't have those sorts of friends, and therefore they'll die. And that is true for the majority, overwhelming majority of middle-class people who couldn't afford. Judge Edwin Cameron, at one stage, when he was a judge, couldn't afford the money because the medical aid was excluding him. So he said to me, I understand, and I'll explain it to the president. At the end of that year, he came to a Médecins Sans Frontières clinic, which was set up by Eric Kumara, a brilliant, brilliant doctor from Belgium. And he put on our T-shirt. And at that moment, in my head, I realized that I was going to take medicine soon.
You knew you'd won. Yeah. Yes. I mean, the moment he put that T-shirt on.
It took us many more years to fight.
Yeah.
But we won the next year, at least in words, not in deeds by the government.
Yeah. Shocking, actually, how quickly they found the money. You know, they pleaded poverty and one thing. Today the program is still ongoing.
Yeah, we've got more than 5 million people on treatment with contributions from across the globe, and in particularly the United States, who I'm not fond of.
Yeah,
but
I believe they've been fantastic.
They've been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely.
And it runs into millions, so they really have been good. I need to just move on a little bit and just take another angle. But I just want to just say, viewers, so now you know what you're dealing with. And now I'm beginning to understand. I hadn't really thought this through. But you did pull off the action treatment campaign. You are still alive. You did go on a on a drug strike, if you can call it that. And you survived that, and you proved your point, and you won the case. And there's, as you say, 5,000 people are better off.
5 million.
5 million. 5 million South Africans are still alive, thanks to you. So, if you doubt the fact that Zackie can't get into Parliament, I think you better have a rethink. I certainly am. If you do get into Parliament, Zackie, what do you say to people who are concerned about splitting parties?
Absolutely.
Absolutely yes, or absolutely...
I am seriously concerned about that.
Okay.
I'm very seriously concerned.
Okay.
Let me make... I know Raizim Zansi says we're not going to make our position clear on a coalition until after the election.
Yeah.
Let me put this. Anyone who doesn't put their position now is doing a disservice to the electorate.
Thank you. I am so glad.
My position is
glad
this.
to hear that.
My position is this. If my vote is necessary to maintain a government that will be good, that will obey the rule of law, that will put the interests of working class people first, I will say to that party, you will have my vote to keep you in power for 3 years. No instability. Even if I disagree with you, if a motion of no confidence goes up, I will give you my vote, unless you do something criminal.
Yes.
Yeah. But you will have my vote, even when I disagree with you. When it comes to individual pieces of legislation, if I disagree with you, I'm going to vote against it. Because that is my commitment to the people who will vote for me. The legislation, the policies that I want to see implemented, that I'm going to vote on, in whether you vote against it or not. So I believe there should be a threshold for parties to get into Parliament.
Yeah.
There should be.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, one-person parties get in. Instead of standing as independents, they register a party and they stand, and they get all the benefits of a party. And then they can go either way, towards the good or towards the bad in Parliament. And that's wrong.
Would it not be better if you just form a party?
No.
No.
At this point, no.
Yeah.
At this point, no. I'm opening the way for other independents at local government level and at building a movement.
That's a good tactic.
And the reason is very simple: to show it can work, and to make sure that my campaign continues after I'm dead in the same way. Building the knowledge of people so that when you become an MP or a councillor, you know what the budget is, you know what the Municipal Finance Management Act is, you know what the policies of procurement is, and you know how to get sanitation into an informal settlement.
I must say, I'm here to give you a hard time, but I actually want to compliment your thinking, in my opinion, the process that you've come to the decision not to split the vote. Because that is what people are really scared of. And the DA is campaigning on that heavily. And based on the situation in the Western Cape, I mean, whatever you might or might not think about the DA, by and large, they don't steal any money. Our province does run, well, it runs. And you only have to travel north to see what a disaster is up there. So, and the DA, for all its faults in Parliament, is united. It, again, generally honest, generally,
and sometimes extremely dumb.
And extremely dumb. I don't know, but every party has that ability to do that, and they are dumb in some areas. But
hey, in many, many areas, but that's for a different discussion.
We'll put that up down. Then we'll make that for the next show. But no, I'm generalizing a bit, but I think, and you made the point, Zackie, that people are just politicked out. We're exhausted. And we're going to have all these political parties. I mean, it's going to be a small book by the time it's done.
No, an encyclopedia, bro.
Encyclopedia, exactly. I mean, it's going to be A to Z kind of going your way through. But people are going to tend to home in what they know. And the one thing that the DA is pushing, and I think rightly so, is don't split the vote. So if you come out and assure everybody that you're not a threat to the DA, because as long as if you get
I'm not a threat to any political party who will do the right thing.
Correct. Correct. And I mean, I believe the DA, Freedom Front Plus, they'll also, if they do the right thing, you with them. I mean, you might not agree with them, but as long as they don't steal or corrupt. But if they're on the right side, you'll support them, which is different to somebody who's going to come in and split the vote. So I think that's just such a sound idea. And it gives me comfort, because if I now vote for you, that I'm not going to have this conscience that, the DA's lost
and because I sign a contract with my supporters, you would be able to hold me to it legally.
Yeah. Okay, I want to go forward. I think we need to start rounding up because there's, yes. Sure.
Read out the comments.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. So, Dina Bosch. Informative interview. This is what MPs are supposed to do and what we, the people, should expect from them. Let's hold MPs accountable. Amen to that. Hey, that really does. Well done, Dina. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, indeed, that's exactly what we should be doing.
Hi, Angelo.
Angelo, let's go, Zackie. Amanda, let's get this
Angelo
man in
works with me.
He's got my vote. I think that called, that just came from the other side
That's
of the studio.
But yeah, he's sitting here in the corner.
All supports welcome, welcome. So, no, lovely. Thanks for that, Nantel, and thanks for the two comments. Yeah, just rounding up, I want to just ask you, so this is like a bit of a loaded question, so it's almost probably as how long as a piece of string, but I am extremely concerned that after the election, things are going to change quite quickly in this country. And I don't mean that because the ANC's got any devilish plan. I just mean that we've got 50% unemployed. We seem to have no plan to do anything about it. The government is completely clueless. I mean, we had this case in the Sunday Times here where they were going to steal 5 billion rand on the basis they were going to create jobs. The UIF's dodgy 5 billion midnight special. Now, apart from the fact they were going to steal 5 billion from the public's purse.
Actually, from workers who pay in.
Exactly. From the actual workers. It breaks my heart, actually, that they even talk about it. But they were going to do it if somebody hadn't caught them out and spoken out. But even more than that they'll take money and spend money on the basis that will create jobs. What will create jobs is having a car manufacturer come into South Africa, or factories moving in here and investing in the people and building a factory, employing people and producing a product that we can take and sell overseas. That's what employment's about. It's not giving money out to people so that they can go and spend it in the economy, because it helps nobody.
Let me first take it a different route. The place to start is to say any political party who is going to promise you 1 million jobs, 2 million jobs, a job in every household, is taking you for a ride. Unless we fix the state, unless we fix Transnet, for instance, how do you get products out the country?
Indeed.
How do you get... you have to fix that.
Yeah.
That will create jobs.
Yeah.
You have to understand how that has to be fixed. It's not going to be fixed in 5 years. So you don't make promises that you can't keep. Your promise should be, we're going to try and fix Transnet. We're going to fix the state. We're going to fix this municipality so that you have water. Never mind the job.
Do you think that people are going to be patient enough to wait 5 years?
Let me put this to you. Our people have been too patient. Way too patient.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Too patient.
I just, in fact, beyond patient.
One of the pensioners who came to a contract signing that I had, Aunt Jane, she put up her hand and she said to me, the ANC promised us heaven in 1994. They've all gone to heaven as MPs and as leaders. We are still in apartheid hell.
Yeah.
All right? Now, I don't believe that we're in a safe place at the moment. The violence against immigrants and refugees is a precursor of what can happen. the 21st of July 2021 attempted coup by the criminally convicted Jacob Zuma showed what can happen when desperate people are given a promise that can't be kept.
Exactly, and how quickly.
And how quickly. I think a lot of people have learned from that because of the destruction it caused and how many people lost jobs. But I think, my concern is, and that is why a stable national coalition or organized government is necessary. A stable national government is necessary because our country is unstable.
Absolutely.
Our country is unstable. And if the top goes into a position of instability, then we have a disaster.
Indeed.
Then we have a disaster.
Yeah, and we just seem to be so tired of hearing people say it, but we always seem to be on the brink.
We're going to fix this.
Yeah.
It's going to take us long.
Yeah.
We are leaving young people a mess. It's our duty to assist them. Not to lead them, to assist them, because then many of them know better than us.
But we need to offer them work, and we need to bring work into this country fast. And that's the problem. That's why people also accuse me of being a bit negative, or maybe very negative. But I can't see it. I can't.
You are too negative.
How are we going to get the work?
Come with me and see what people do.
So if I want to come with you, where do I go? What do I do? How do we get in touch with you? How do we talk about you? Where do we find you? People want to donate, get involved. Tell us more.
My campaign runs out of the Central Methodist Missions offices called Methodist House, 46 Church Street in Cape Town. The online, you can find me on Twitter at Zackie2024. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram on the same. I haven't yet done my "This is Viola" for TikTok. I will, right? I think, and then of course there's the website.
Yeah.
Zackie2024.com.
Right.
I want you to go to the website now.
Okay.
I want you to say you're going to sign to get me elected, and we will get to you. And the reason I'm saying that is you don't need to vote for me, but I want your vote. What you need to do is say he has a right to stand as an MP. That's what your signature, that's what your ID will mean.
I'll do that with greatest of pleasure. And then one final thing, you need money.
Hey, how can I forget that? How can I forget that?
I just thought I'd mention it.
Please, donate 100 Rand a month, donate 50 Rand a month. And if you can donate 5,000 Rand a month as one person, in fact, there's someone who donates 5,000 Rand a week.
Wow. Wow, that is exciting.
She's a decent human being. She also used to assist in funding the Treatment Action Campaign.
Okay.
And this is my commitment in public. Every donation will get acknowledged. It will be on paper. People who are in dangerous situations or in compromised situations, who don't want to use their name in public, them we'll put on a list which I'm going to ask my vote counts to inspect so that they can see there's no funny games there. There are no funny games. And I believe, and the reason I want to acknowledge small donations is this. Every donation matters and should be acknowledged. The unseen donations of people who help research and people who go door to door and people who help educate people, if you put that online, we'll have a big book. But every cent must be acknowledged. And that is a public acknowledgement. Political parties should all do that. The second is, I want to show who my big donors are. Because I don't want them, and my deal with them is very simple. No favors asked, no favors given. And if your interest comes up in Parliament and it's against, if your interest comes in Parliament, I will abstain. And if I need to vote against it because it's bad for poor people, I will vote against it.
Sure, and you can't claim then that you didn't know.
Yes,
exactly
indeed.
Right, And
Indeed.
you need to do that. You really do. Because particularly in Parliament, let's be honest, they'll throw everything that they can to discredit you, as the DA is finding out right now. So, well, look, I just want to say, comment on the crowdfunding. I would not recommend. I'm sure you're thinking about it, but I think the crowdfunding thing is the way to go.
Right.
You need a lot of support. And how many votes did you say you need?
I need
40?
about 83,000 votes.
83,000. Well, let's assume you get them, and everyone gives you 10 rand. You'll be in a good space. So, viewers, I want to just, on behalf of Cape Conscious Media,
I've won my first DA voter.
Oh, we have to edit this out very quickly. But I want to say, on behalf of Cape Conscious Media, Zackie, thanks so much for coming along. I actually do feel there's another show because there's a few questions.
I'll come.
You'll come. Wonderful.
Because we're two old men meandering in the hills.
I think so, yeah. And I keep writing them down. Oh, there's no time. But so we'll do this in 2 chunks. But I do want to just say thanks very much to Nantle, the producer. I want to say thanks to everybody at Cape Conscious Media who give me this platform to do these interviews. Thank you very much. I want to thank the viewers once again for watching. And when you do tune in, please acknowledge the fact, give us the thumbs up, subscribe. It helps the old algorithm get going, and that we desperately need to keep our show high up on the platforms for viewing. And then I think in conclusion, Zackie, we've got a date then. You'll
Thanks
be
for
back.
having me.
I want to wish you every bit of luck. I will go to the website, I promise you, straight after this interview is over, and I will definitely acknowledge the fact, and I would ask everybody to do that. And one final thing, as Zackie touched on it, when people vote, they mustn't find out they haven't registered. So please, if you have not registered...
Oh, you can't sign for me if you're not a registered voter,
Well,
but we will help you register.
There you go.
You can register online or register.
Yeah, but that is so important. And even if you think you're not going to vote for Zackie, register anyway, just in case you suddenly go, he's the man, and you haven't registered, it's too late.
I don't care who you're going to vote for a party. Well, apart from voting for me,
Yeah.
I don't care who you want to vote for, as long as you register and
Just
participate.
Register to vote. The rest will follow. So thanks again, Zackie. Look forward to seeing you back in the studio, and good luck with everything going forward. Vorentoe. Baie dankie.